If you're still using Windows 10 in 2026, your computer is already in a risky spot, and most people don't even realize it yet. Microsoft stopped supporting Windows 10 back on October 14th, 2025. That means no more security updates, no more fixes, and no more protection from new threats. Your system still works, but behind the scenes it's no longer being defended. Any new weakness discovered in Windows 10 now stays open, and your computer is exposed. The shocking part is how many people this affects. Around 1 billion devices worldwide are still running Windows 10. That's not a small group of outdated machines. That's nearly half of all Windows users. Most of them aren't ignoring upgrades on purpose. Their computers simply can't move to Windows 11 without major changes or new hardware. And that's where the problem gets worse. At the exact same time, Windows 10 is losing support. The computer hardware market has become extremely expensive and unstable. Prices for key parts like RAM, storage, and graphics cards have shot up in a very short time. In many cases, upgrades now cost 2 to 3 times more than they did just a year ago. Even basic upgrades are no longer cheap. High-performance memory kits and storage drives that used to be affordable are now priced far out of reach for many everyday users. Graphics cards, the parts needed for gaming, editing, or even some modern work tasks, are often sold out or being resold at extremely high prices. So people are stuck in a difficult position. On one side, Microsoft is pushing users toward Windows 11, but many computers simply don't qualify. On the other side, the hardware needed to replace those computers is expensive and hard to find. Even if you have the money, you might still struggle to get the parts. That leaves most users with only a few real options. You can pay Microsoft for temporary extended support, which only delays the problem. You can try to buy a whole new computer, which can cost thousands of dollars in today's market. Or you can continue using Windows 10 without updates, which slowly becomes more risky over time. But there is another option that almost no one is talking about yet, and that's where things start to get interesting. There's a third path that can keep your current computer running smoothly, avoid expensive upgrades, and give you a system that is actually faster and more flexible than Windows in many cases. It doesn't involve buying new hardware or paying ongoing fees. That option is Linux, and in 2026, for the first time, switching to Linux is no longer a tech expert-only idea. It's becoming a practical solution for regular users who just want their computer to work without spending a fortune. Before explaining why, it's important to understand how serious the current situation really is and why so many people are suddenly looking for alternatives. Let's be clear about what's happening with Windows 10 right now because a lot of people are still confused. Windows 10 support has already ended. That means Microsoft is no longer sending security updates to fix new problems. If hackers find a weakness today, it will never be patched on Windows 10. Your computer will still turn on and work, but it's no longer fully protected. Now, many people think the solution is simple, just upgrade to Windows 11. But that's where reality hits hard. Windows 11 has strict hardware rules. Microsoft decided that only newer processors are allowed. If your computer is more than a few years old, there's a good chance it won't qualify. Even powerful machines from 2016 or 2017 are often blocked. For example, Intel systems need at least 8th generation chips or newer. AMD users need newer Ryzen models. On top of that, your computer also needs a special security feature called TPM 2.0. Many older systems don't have it at all, and in some cases it's hidden in settings that most people don't even know how to access. So even if your computer still runs fast and handles everything you do, Microsoft may still say it's not supported. That leaves millions of people stuck. Their computers work fine, but they are suddenly considered outdated by software standards. And this is not a small group. Huge numbers of Windows users around the world are still on Windows 10 simply because their hardware cannot move forward without being replaced. To make things even more difficult, Microsoft introduced an extended security program. This allows users to pay a yearly fee to keep getting updates for Windows 10, but it's not a long-term solution. At first it may sound cheap, but it's still a payment for something you already owned and used for years. And it only delays the problem for a short time before support fully ends again. For businesses, the cost becomes even worse. Companies are being charged significantly higher fees per device every year just to stay protected. Over time, it becomes extremely expensive to avoid upgrading. So people are left with a tough choice. Pay ongoing fees for an outdated system or spend a large amount of money on new hardware just to keep using Windows. And here's the part most people don't see coming. While users are being pushed into these decisions, the global hardware market is also going through a major shortage. The prices of key computer parts are rising fast, and availability is getting worse. This means upgrading isn't just expensive, it's also difficult to do it all. So now you have a perfect storm. Older systems losing support, new systems becoming harder to afford, and hardware prices going up at the same time. This is the situation millions of users are facing right now, and it's exactly why more people are starting to look for completely different solutions outside of Windows. Now let's talk about why upgrading your computer has become so expensive and frustrating in 2026. Even if you decide to move to Windows 11, the cost of new hardware is no longer normal. Prices for computer parts have gone up fast, and in many cases they've doubled or even tripled in a short time. Memory is one of the biggest problems. RAM, which your computer needs to run programs, has seen massive price jumps. Kits that used to be affordable are now selling for several times more than before. In some cases, the same amount of memory can cost hundreds of dollars more than it did just months earlier. Storage is also affected. Solid-state drives, or SSDs, used to be one of the cheapest upgrades you could make. Now, even basic drives have become expensive because the chips inside them are in short supply. Graphics cards are in an even worse situation. These are the parts used for gaming, video editing, and other heavy tasks. Prices have skyrocketed, and many models are either out of stock or being sold at extremely high resale prices. In some cases, people are paying thousands of dollars just to get a single GPU that should normally cost far less. Even pre-built computers from major brands are becoming more expensive because companies themselves are paying inflated prices for parts. This has created a strange situation where even computer builders are struggling. They're not just passing costs to customers, they are also being forced to buy expensive parts from suppliers who are dealing with shortages. As a result, buying a new computer in 2026 can easily cost between $1,000 and $3,000, depending on what you need. And if you want something powerful for gaming, editing, or professional work, the price can go even higher. On top of that, experts say this shortage is not ending anytime soon. Some predict the supply problems could continue for years, possibly even into the late 2020s. That means prices may stay high or even rise further. So the idea of just upgrading is no longer simple. For many people, it's financially out of reach, and this is where the situation becomes really important. Because while Windows is pushing users toward newer hardware, and hardware is becoming more expensive, there is still one major option that doesn't depend on any of this. You don't have to buy new parts, you don't have to pay ongoing fees, and you don't have to accept a system that no longer supports your current computer. That option is Linux. But before we get into why Linux is suddenly becoming a real solution for everyday users in 2026, it's important to understand just how far this software has changed in recent years, and why it's no longer the complicated system people used to avoid. This is where things really start to shift. For years, Linux had a reputation of being difficult. People thought it was only for programmers, or that you needed to use the command line for everything. That used to be true in the past, but it's no longer accurate in 2026. Modern Linux has changed a lot. Today's versions are built for normal users. Systems like Ubuntu, Linux Mint, and similar setups look and feel very close to Windows. You get a desktop, a start menu, and simple settings. Installing apps is just like using an app store on a phone. Click, install, done. You don't need to type complex commands. You don't need deep technical knowledge. Most daily tasks feel familiar right away. Browsing the internet, watching videos, sending emails, or editing documents all work normally. Even better, Linux is much lighter than Windows. That means it uses fewer system resources. On the same computer, Linux can often run faster and smoother than Windows 10 ever did. Older machines that struggle with Windows updates can feel noticeably quicker again after switching. A big reason for this is that Linux doesn't come with all the extra background software and services that slow Windows down. There are no forced apps running in the background, no constant pop-ups, and no unnecessary features you can't remove. Another major change is software support. In the past, one of the biggest problems was that popular programs didn't work on Linux. That has changed. Office-style tools are available for free. Browsers, media tools, and productivity apps all work normally. Many people can do their daily work without missing anything important. Even professional tools have improved support. Video editing software like DaVinci Resolve works on Linux. Graphic tools and creative apps also have alternatives or compatibility options. And for most users, browser-based tools like Google Docs already cover a large part of what they need. Gaming used to be the biggest weakness, but that has also changed. Thanks to improvements in compatibility tools like Proton and Steam support, a large number of popular games now run on Linux. Many top titles work without major issues, including big modern releases. On top of that, Linux gives you something Windows no longer does: full control without restrictions. There are no forced subscriptions, no paid upgrades just to stay secure, no hidden ads inside the operating system, no requirement to log into an online account just to use your own computer. It's your system, and it behaves like it. And the cost is simple: zero. Linux is completely free. You install it once, and it stays free forever. Updates and security patches are also free. There are no licensing fees and no extended support payments. When you combine that with the current hardware situation, the advantage becomes very clear. Instead of spending thousands on new hardware or paying ongoing fees for outdated support, you can continue using your existing computer and still get a modern, secure system. That's why more people are starting to seriously consider Linux in 2026. Not because it's trendy, but because the usual options are becoming too expensive or too limited. And now the real question becomes simple. Do you keep paying for a system that is becoming harder to maintain? Or do you switch to something that works with what you already have?